Knew I was muted, and I'm so glad I checked because I would have went this entire day with a muted mic. But red button means we're live. A casual take, not some casual take. I'm going to explain that in a second. A casual take hosted by your boy, Stephen Pepper, here to casually talk sports. No, I'm not changing my name. My name will still be some casual takes. But what is a casual take? Well, because these last couple of podcasts, I've only been talking about one or two topics. And I was like, I don't want to call some casual takes and make a whole podcast episode out of one topic. So whenever I have just one short thing to get off a take, let's just do a casual take. It's not a podcast. It doesn't take up a podcast number. It doesn't take up 30 minutes. Just one take, not some casual takes because we're only talking about one thing. A casual take. So I hope you guys get what I'm saying. So I want to get this off, and that's it. Sorry, Twitch is blowing up phone. Let me put this on D&D. How's everyone doing? I appreciate everyone commenting on my Browns on my last podcast. A lot of people seem to like when I was talking about the Browns. A lot of Browns fans, I guess, because no one really gasses them up. And probably like the entire time they've been a Browns fan, they never heard this type of Super Bowl hype. So you're welcome, Browns fans. I had to show some love at Thursday Night Football. But I want to talk about this because I saw this yesterday. Jonathan Gannon, head coach of the Cardinals, was asked by a reporter if Kyler Murray was their guy. The question was like, is there any doubt in your mind who your quarterback is going to be next season? Gannon said, no, there's not. So follow-up was, so is Kyler your guy? And Gannon said, there's no doubt. Number one is our guy. He's our franchise guy. And I thought about talking about this topic throughout this season, especially on that very first game where Kyler Murray came back off injury, and this was kind of like the topic, is Kyler Murray the guy? But I chose not to talk about it because I thought it was just disrespectful. It's like, have we forgotten who Kyler Murray is? Kyler Murray is the franchise guy. And I think he proved it against when he marched into Philadelphia and threw 3 touchdowns and didn't throw a lot of incompletions. He had an interception, but he played really well and won that football game, proving us who he is. Because it's like, how did we forget who he is? Because Kyler Murray, pre-injury, his first 60 games, completed well over 60% of his throws, went to the playoffs in a division that featured Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan and Pete Carroll, 3 of the best coaches in the game, threw double the touchdowns and interceptions, and he averaged per season his first 3 years when he was AP Rookie of the Year and then 2 Pro Bowlers, 4,000 total yards and 30 touchdowns. He is that guy. That is who Kyler Murray is. But last year he was injured. And then I know the Call of Duty stuff and the contract clause about the film and the iPad. It pissed everyone off and it turned everyone away. And they're losing games. But when he's making the playoffs, when he was a Pro Bowler, he was a number 1 overall pick. Everyone's like, oh, Kyler Murray's a top 10 player. And I had him as a top 10, top 11 quarterback coming in the season because that's who I think he is. He is a franchise guy. He's not a Mahomes. He's not an Allen. He's not a Burrow. But he's in that second tier of like a Trevor Lawrence, a Matthew Stafford, a Dak Prescott, tier 2 franchise guys. Which had me thinking when I was driving home from the gym, I was thinking about Kyler Murray again in this comment. I was like making this comparison. Kyler is the Trae Young in the NFL. Well, it's funny because they were Oklahoma stars around the same time, but they were both drafted very high and expected to immediately carry some historically losing franchises. They're both undersized. They turn the ball over sometimes due to their unorthodox style of play. But that didn't seem to matter early on in their careers to the public eye because most people quickly put them as top 10 players in their position, especially in 2021 when Trae Young took the Hawks to an Eastern Conference Finals without an all-star teammate, and Kyler Murray took the Cardinals to the playoffs for the first time in years with mid-talent in a division that featured 2 teams that ended up in the NFC Championship game. One of those teams beat Murray's Cardinals and won the Super Bowl. But a bad playoff game here or there, injuries, losing records, and now we just forgot about him. But now we don't hold him as high as we used to. But it's not like they regressed. Kyler Murray's 3 touchdowns at Philadelphia show the type of player who he is, a franchise guy. Trae Young, I don't know why no one's talking about an NBA Hoops talks, but 7 straight games the other week where he dropped no less than 30 and 10. Y'all are just choosing to ignore them. Y'all didn't ignore them when they were winning games because they had better situations. When Kyler Murray wasn't injured, when Trae Young didn't have a bad playoff game, y'all weren't ignoring them then when he was in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then Kyler took him to playoffs, but you're ignoring him now because his situation, you buy his winning and reports about their character. Kyler's a franchise guy. A guy who, when he was healthy, 4,000 total yards, 30 total touchdowns. Trae Young also is a franchise guy. 30 and 10. He is 7th in scoring and 2nd in assists. How is that not a franchise guy? But they don't get talked about like it. Kyler Murray doesn't get 4,000 total yards. That's franchise. Playoffs on at least a decent situation, that's franchise, but they don't get talked about it. And when the Cardinals were bad, and before Kyler Murray came back, Kyler Murray's beaten plenty of playoff caliber teams this year, including the Eagles. But before he came back and he was hurt, the Cardinals were projected to be the number 2 pick in the draft. So that means and most people were saying, oh, draft Drake May, draft Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix. Well, I think they would have been lucky if they would take a quarterback today, or where they were at 2 with the question of whether to take Kyler Murray. I think they would have been lucky if that quarterback was even a 1-time Pro Bowler on the rookie contract when Kyler Murray was a 2-time Pro Bowler. Kyler Murray was a 2-time Pro Bowler. Everyone was in love with him. All of a sudden, he has a really bad coach. Same with Trae Young. These guys have bad coaches. Teammates aren't that great. Deal with some injuries. Had a bad playoff game. Got reports about character and Call of Duty. And now all of a sudden, he's not a franchise-level quarterback. Now all of a sudden, Trae Young doesn't get talked about. He's not Steph. I'm not saying Trae Young's Steph. I'm not saying he's Luka. I'm not even saying Trae Young could be SGA. But he should be talked about like he's SGA or De'Aaron Fox or John Morant or Tyrese Halliburton. It's like everyone just moved off of Trae Young in favor of Tyrese Halliburton. Like Trae Young isn't also doing what Tyrese Halliburton's doing, just Tyrese Halliburton's in a better situation. Or everyone's moved off Kyler Murray in favor of like a Dak Prescott. Like Dak Prescott's just not in a miles better situation. When Kyler Murray, he had a decent situation, took that team in a tough division to the playoffs, 30 total touchdowns, 4,000 total yards, Pro Bowler, looked like the franchise guy. But all of a sudden, he gets hurt. His best weapon, DeAndre Hopkins, who's no longer there, was suspended for half the season. He is the worst coach in all football, who ended up getting fired after that season, who couldn't even take Patrick Mahomes to a winning record in college. That's the guy that he had to deal with all of that. Trust me, next year they improve that situation. You're going to see that Kyler Murray is that franchise guy. That's all I wanted to say about Kyler Murray. It just kind of made me mad. You know what I'm saying? Where the way we treat Kyler Murray, the way we treat Trae Young as these guys who aren't franchise players, who aren't one of the better players in their position. Not saying they're Mahomes, not saying he's Steph Curry. But when they were in at least a decent situation, we saw them as franchise guys. But they're in a bad situation. All of a sudden, they're not. I appreciate everyone for tapping in today to A Casual Take, the shorter version of my podcast, Some Casual Takes, where I just come on here and give a takeoff. Follow all my social media to stay updated on all things related to the show. Until next time, peace.